By Thursday, we were all trying to prepare for the weekend. The kids were trying to get ready to go racing at trails for the King of Columbus backside event Saturday afternoon. Tommy plans to take his Falcon down there, Billy's going to run his white Camaro, and Kenny's going to run the dark blue Cutlass that Billy bought recently in True Street. While the kids are all working on their cars and trying to get ready to race, I was in the back shop working on my dad's 35 Ford. The biggest problem we're fighting with it right now is an overheating problem. All right, so we got the old Ford cleaned up here a little bit. I'm trying to systematically go through and figure out why it's overheating. I just topped the radiator back off. Every time I bring it home, it's almost 1.5 gallons low on coolant. I haven't specifically test driven it and stayed below 40 miles an hour yet, but it seems like it does really good until you start pushing it above 40, 45 mile an hour. Now, yesterday it was really hot. It was up 89, 90 degrees. So it was really a pretty warm day. Today it's cloudy. It's a lot cooler. We had a cold front come through and it's much more pleasant outside. Let's just say that. So I'm gonna take this thing out and just kind of test drive it and see if I can't start to establish maybe what's going on with this thing. I don't think we're gonna need the windshield out today. I think we can go ahead and close that. This car, I don't know, this is the key switch. This is the key switch down here. And I don't know whether someone doesn't understand what this is, but it's actually a locking steering column as well as the key switch for the ignition. But they've also got one up here on the dash. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know why they did that, but that's the way this car is. So the starter is this little button down here. Gosh, I can't hardly. All right, there we go. This is the starter button. So the starter isn't on a key switch. You just turn the ignition on and then you hit this button down there to start it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in neutral. We're going to turn the ignition on and turn the ignition on. This, I think that's on. Then we're going to pull a choke out. And then we're going to hit this button down here on the floor with my foot. I tried to start. I might have flooded it. There we go. So I'm not real familiar with this car and its intricacies. I'm not sure how far you have to pull the choke out to get it to start. I'm not sure how long you need to hold the choke out to get it to start. So that's the very first time I can remember starting this thing cold. Every time I've ever driven this car, it was already started and warmed up by somebody else. So the speedometer still works, but the gas gauge and the factory temperature gauge do not work. And actually right now I have no temperature gauge. And the thing about flathead V8s is that each side of the block has a separate water pump and a separate temperature. So it has one radiator, they share one radiator, but each side of the block has its own thermostat, its own water pump. And so really, to get an idea of what's going on with this thing, it really should have a temperature gauge on each bank. And right now we have no temperature gauge, so that's not helping, but that's okay. For what we're doing right now, we're just trying to get a feel for this car and put some miles on it and get acclimated with its intricacies and see what it likes and what it doesn't like. I've got the choke pulled out on it right now, just a little bit to let it warm up. You can see the exhaust is teeny tiny. It's very quiet. It's like 1.5 inches, I think we measured 1.5 inches exhaust, single exhaust. So it's very small. I did a little bit of research online today. It has 21 head studs per side. And that is typical with a 32 to a 36 flathead V8 of the 221 cubic inch size. Now there was one a little smaller than that. I can't remember off the top of my head what the smaller one was, but this one appears to be a 221. All right, so I've let it run here for just a couple of minutes. As you can hear, the exhaust note is really smooth. The carburetor seems pretty decent, although I don't know if it has an accelerator pump or not. If it does, I think the accelerator pump's probably dried up in it, because it's got just a little bit of a stumble right off an idle. That's something I'll look into. But otherwise, it runs really good. The idle mixture screws operate, and they add and take fuel away just like they should. So just kind of going around and checking things out on this thing. All right, so I just topped this thing off, and it's sitting there idling, and it's spewing water out. Now I topped the radiator off all the way, and there's barely any heat in the cooling system. Yeah, the water level is starting to puke out. That's pretty typical on a non-pressurized cooling system. They kind of find their own level. It's not overheating, it's not even warm yet, just a little bit of heat in it. But you can hear the engine runs really good. It's very smooth, very quiet. Really nice little flathead. All right, so this is kind of cool. This is your headlight switch. This is parking lamps or low beam, and that's high beam, I'm not sure. But that's how you turn the headlights on. And clutch, of course. Reverse is over to your left and straight up. Back it out, get it out of here. Oh, forgot. Parking brake was set. This car has mechanical brakes, and so when you set the parking brake, you can feel it in the brake pedal. Parking brake works, but now it's got slop in the brake pedal, but you can feel it in the brake pedal when you release the parking brake. Now typically I would use background music, and I've seen a lot of people comment they just want to hear what's going on with no music, so we're going to do a little bit of that today. Just going to pull this thing up here, and you're going to get to hear everything that's going on as it happens, at least for this part of the video anyway. Mostly because I want to show how quiet this car is. Set the parking brake. There we go. You can hear how nicely this engine runs, how smoothly it idles. Really nice little engine. Anyway, we got a little heat in it. Let's go ahead and take it for a little drive. I don't know if you can hear the engine, how quiet it is, but it's pretty quiet. Car's got a few little rattles in it here and there, nothing too serious. I think the exhaust system rattles underneath of it a little bit for some reason. I don't know. I've never actually been underneath this car on a lift. Jeremy says it's kind of a pain in the butt to put on a lift. I don't know. You kind of hear the transmission growls a little bit in first gear. It's because the straight cut gears shift to second. Synchronized. Got a little bit of a hesitation there in the throttle from idle to tip in. It's got a little lean spot. Probably the accelerator pump dried up if I had to guess. Shift into third. There we go. We're off and running. Now for this test drive, I'm going to try and just keep it at 35 miles an hour, 40 tops. I'm not going to put it out on the highway and crowd the throttle. I'm just going to putt around with it gentle. It's relatively cool out today. It's comfortable, cloudy. So if it overheats today, it's definitely got some kind of a problem. Regardless of what kind of a problem you're having with a car, especially an old car like this, you really need to test drive it and spend some time getting acclimated with the car to get a feel for how it runs and drives. There's no USB port or data link that you can hook to a scan tool to pull codes. So I'm taking it for a short test drive into Pataskala to go visit my mom at the cemetery. I pulled in my usual spot and parked the old Ford and let it idle. While I was standing there visiting my mom, I looked over and noticed that we already have a problem. So I walked back over to the car, shut the engine off, and opened the hood and let it cool down while I finished my visit. I gave the car about 15 or 20 minutes to cool off and then got back in it to head home. Now this is the second or third time in the last 2 days I've completely filled the radiator and had it empty the cooling system within 10 miles. So this time when I brought it back to the shop, I wanted to pull the radiator hoses off and see if it has thermostats in the water pumps, which it did not. So now I'm considering the possibility that the water is circulating through the radiator faster than the radiator can cool it. And I'd like to be able to put a temperature gauge sending unit in each one of the radiator hoses to monitor the temperature in each bank of the engine. So I jumped in the El Camino and figured I'd take a trip down to Buckeye Lake to go visit Mark. That way I can kind of show him what I'm trying to accomplish and explain to him what I'm working with. Only one of the upper radiator hose had a special fitting to put a temperature sending unit in it. Not only was it the wrong size for the radiator hose, but it was a metric thread, so standard American pipe thread will never tighten or seal up. I also want to try and figure out some way of restricting the water flow through the upper radiator hoses as well. And believe it or not, old Mark had a genius idea. He found a socket that fits right up inside the radiator hose and forced the water to slow down through the half-inch square hole. So you really came out looking like a hero today, honestly.
Well, you know.
This deal of shoving a socket up in a radiator hose is pretty ingenious, honestly.
I don't know if Henry Ford would come up with something like that or not.
Well, he'd probably come up with something a little bit better. But,
oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't, though, did he?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Because there's no way to put thermostats in those water pumps. There's no provision for it. And I'm not a flathead expert by any means.
Nor am I.
And so I'm just looking at a way to slow the coolant down, because as it is right now, the higher the RPM, the faster it turns the coolant through the radiator. Mm-hmm. The fan is at the top of the radiator, okay? Mm-hmm. The distributor's at the bottom.
Okay.
The fan is not centered, and it doesn't have a shroud. Once it gets hot enough to push the top part of the water out of the radiator, then there's only water in the bottom of the radiator, and that's not where the fan is.
No, it's at the top.
It's a pretty piss-poor operation, let's be honest.
It's something, but it's getting redesigned.
It's getting something.
It is.
I don't know if there used to be a shroud on that car, and it's missing. I don't know, but it looks like something Buckwheat engineered.
Well, I know he's had his hands in there, so.
No, not yet. I mean, he's put a water pump on it.
Oh, okay. Well.
But other than that, it's not a Buckwheat deal. It's
okay. Well,
it's one of these things that I got to figure out for my dad. All right, everybody, I'm back here at the shop. Today is Friday, and since we're kind of at a standstill with the 35 Ford project, kind of moving on to other things here, and something I've been wanting to do for a while, or trying to get Billy to do, but I can't seem to get him to do it, so I'm going to do it myself, is do a little swapperoo on this 55 Chevy in here. His 55 has always been on gas, and it does not run worth a damn on pump gas. It has to have race gas in it. He robbed the ATM carburetor off of it here recently to put on this Cutlass that he bought. And so now the Cutlass runs really good, but the 55 is sitting in here without a carburetor. So I'm going to take this opportunity, and Kenny and I are going to pump the race gas out of the tank. We're going to transfer the race gas to the Cutlass because it's on gas. And I'm going to go get some E85, and I've got an E85 Dominator in here that we can put on the 55. And that would allow us to actually drive and enjoy the car a little bit. And it's got some things that need to be taken care of on it, but I don't drive it. Nobody really drives it or uses it because it's so expensive to race it or drive it because of the fuel. So I'm not even going to ask permission. I'm just going to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is turn the electric fuel pump on and pump all the race gas out of the fuel tank of the 55 so that we can dump it into the Cutlass. And that'll help Kenny out too, because he plans on racing that car this weekend. While Kenny was back at the shop pumping fuel out of the 55 and putting it in the Olds, I took the El Camino into Hebron to get some E85, and I actually picked up a hitchhiker along the way. You're blinding me.
What?
By the time Mark and I got back to the shop, Kenny had already swapped carburetors and was ready to start putting E85 in the tank. Once we had the car fired up, Mark and I jumped in it to take it into town to completely top off the fuel cell and see if the car runs any cooler on E85 than it did on race gas. Typically with an E85 carburetor, you'll drop 20 to 30 degrees in water temps pretty easily. The ethanol will actually chill the intake manifold to the point where it pulls heat out of the cylinder heads. Typically, I'll set the carburetors up so that they idle a little bit on the rich side so that when you stop in traffic, big cubic inch and high compression engines will actually lose water temperature while they're sitting still, which would be a huge help, especially in a big block Chevy powered 55 Bel Air. The engine in this car is actually a 555 cubic inch aluminum headed big block with 12-to-1 compression. The car has run a best of 9 I-97 at over 130 miles an hour on race gas, and is easily capable of running in the high 8-second range on nitrous. Since Billy's 55 already has a standalone fuel cell in the trunk, we can drive the car around on E85 in the main fuel cell while putting race gas in the nitrous standalone tank. This is the same way I run my Malibu, cruising on $3 a gallon E85 and spraying it with $20 a gallon race gas. This combination allows you to drive a high compression, high horsepower engine on the street more affordably, and it makes it a lot easier on your wallet when you take it to the track as well. Although Trails was open Friday night for a test and tune, Billy was trying to get ready to race at the backside of the track tomorrow night. And since he's never had the Camaro on blacktop, he took it down to our local test spot to shake it down. And Mark and I just happened to pull up behind him in the process. Fancy meeting you here. Dingus is trying to get ready?
Yep.
All right, I'll meet you back at the house.
All right.
It's constant fuckery around here.
Yes, it is.
So this brings us to Saturday. Now the kids are going to the track to race the back end of the track tonight for the King of Columbus event at Trails. But me, Vicky, and Wyatt have our own plans for today. We were invited to come up to Bristolville, Ohio to the Church Boys Racing Open House. So we're taking the Malibu on a 3.5-hour drive straight up 77, northeast of Akron-Canton, almost to Lake Erie. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you may remember I've been up here a couple times before. I brought Richard Garcia's black 67 Chevy 2 up here so that Chuck and his crew could do some work on it last year. I promised Chuck if there was any way possible, I would try to be here for his next open house. So today's the day, and I made my grand appearance in spectacular fashion. It began with Asian picking up my drone and trying to auction it off for charity.
Going once, all in, all done. It's drone, it flies. Sometimes anybody can 9:30.
Although Uncle Farm Truck couldn't make it this year, Asian was here working the crowd. They both share a very special relationship with Chuck Church Jr., who was responsible for secretly restoring Asian's 63 Chevy 2, which I happened to park next to when we pulled in, as the car was on display for everyone here to check out. The Church Boys Racing compound was pretty hopping when we pulled in, and after 3.5 hours of riding in a car seat, old Wyatt was ready to get his shoes on and start checking things out. He wasn't the only one. There were quite a few little kids there, but only one of them brought a little green dinosaur. Right off the rip, there were fist bumps for everybody. And then once everyone got acquainted, it was time to go check out the cars. I explained to Chuck that unfortunately my Nova's down and I don't own a Chevy 2. However, I own a Chevy also. And Chuck assured me that although this is typically a Chevy 2 and a Nova show, they would allow me to park my Malibu in with the show cars. Personally, I really wanted to check out all the wagons, because right now one of those would come in pretty handy in our current situation. But right now I've got more projects than I can get done in twice the number of years I've got left in my life. So we made it.
We did.
We made it.
We did.
Pookie still got his dinosaur,
Yep.
and you're eyeballing this engine here.
It's mint green.
It's an LS.
I don't care. I just like the color. I think I should have a mint green engine.
Well, look at this. Look how ugly that is compared to the orange one right next to it.
Yeah, those do look better. But I do like the color.
Although I'm not a big LS engine fan, there were quite a few cars there on the grounds that had LS engines in them. Little did I know I was about to get acquainted with one that I likely would have never recognized had it not been for what I saw laying in the back seat. About a year ago, I bought a 67 Chevy 2 two-door sedan out of Texas, and I sold it to Chuck Church, who sold it to a man who was going to build the car as a tribute to his late wife. This particular 67 Chevy 2 two-door sedan was sold new in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. The car spent its entire life in Fort Worth until Jimmy Dale brought it up to Ohio for me when I purchased it. Billy and I got the car running, and I only drove it one time. I found the black Monte Carlo for sale and decided to sell the Nova so that I could buy the Monte Carlo. When I decided to sell the 67, I called Chuck Church. Chuck offered to buy the car sight unseen, but within hours of Chuck buying the car, he had already found a buyer. And the story behind all these transactions is pretty incredible. Charlie and his son Michael Rogers from Fairview, Missouri, bought this car to replace a blue 67 that was totaled in an accident. Losing the car was difficult for Charlie, but what made this so devastating was that he lost his wife Yvonne, who was riding in the passenger seat at the time of the crash. In a split second, Charlie's life changed forever. Although he will always grieve for his wife, the loss of his 67 two-door sedan became his new mission in life. Charlie drove out from Missouri and picked this car up just a few days after I dropped it off and vowed to Chuck Church the car would one day come back for one of his open houses. And so here we are again, another story of Chuck Church stepping up to help someone bring back a part of their life that they never want to forget. It didn't take me long to recognize that Chuck is a very special person, which is why I, as well as Asian and Charlie and everyone else who showed up today for this open house, came to support Chuck and his family. The fact that I got to meet Charlie and his son and get to see my old car again was just an added bonus. A blessing, honestly. You didn't tell me that this car was going to be here.
Surprise, surprise. Go by.
Jimmy brought it up to me from Texas, and I sold this car to buy my Monte Carlo. And a lot of people didn't understand why I would do such a thing, but I'm not so sure I understand. But it went to the perfect person.
It did.
It really did. Where are you from?
I'm from Fairview, Missouri.
Fairview, Missouri.
860 miles from this spot we're standing right now.
And he drove this car up here. This is its first real major trip?
Yep.
My gosh.
Over 150 miles. We just jumped in it yesterday and took off.
Dude,
Left the
it's
house about
beautiful.
1 a.m. Got here a little after 4 yesterday.
I saw it earlier, but I had no idea that was my old car.
Yes, sir.
That is insane. Dude, I am so happy for you that you've got it here and you're getting to enjoy it.
Yes, sir. Me too. It's been a godsend. It really has. The situation, what happened, and everything. It really has. It's helped me a lot last year.
Yeah, it went to the right person. When he told me what the situation was with the guy who's been blowing him up for this car, because you were trying to get a hold of me,
Yeah.
and like, my messages are insane. Like, I get so many that I can't read them all. But you did get a hold of Chuck.
Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry you couldn't get a hold of me, but it worked out, didn't
Worked
it?
out great. I mean,
Meant to be.
It built a relationship here that's going to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, Chuck and his team here. I mean, they helped me a lot on this car, and it means a lot to me. You know, after everything that's happened and all that, the way they're like family. You know, they really are. You know, you got guys that come up. You know, Manny came up and said something to me a while ago. You know, of course, made me bawl like crazy. But you know what? I appreciate him. I appreciate this whole group here.
Dude, I didn't know this was the car until Manny come up and he's like, man, did you see the green cars here? I'm like, the green car? What? And he walked away and I was like, wait a minute, I'm starting to put things together in my head. I'm like, is that it? And then I walked up and I saw the pictures in the back seat. I was like, oh my gosh, it is it. Dude, I am so thankful to get to meet you today. Like, I wanted to come up here and see Chuck and support Chuck because his family are awesome. You already know that.
Yes, sir.
But I had no idea this car would be here today. This is amazing. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say.
It's good. It really is. Like I say, we drove up yesterday. Was on the road about 14 hours, and it was
14
great.
hours one
Got
way.
my boy with me, and we just made a trip out of it. He
Nice
came
to
up
meet you,
here,
man.
Come picked it up.
It's
I went home and
incredible.
worked on it every day for the last
I know.
year.
Watching
So
it, yeah. Big build.
Well, congratulations on getting the car done, getting to be here. And I am so thankful I got to meet you today and see the car myself.
me too.
Amazing. I had no idea.
Awesome.
All right, guys, we're back home. It's Sunday night, and I'm just getting around to finishing this video up. We had a wonderful time up at the open house with Chuck and his family. We all went to Quaker Steak and Lube after the show. We all drove over there and we had dinner, and I got to meet with some people that I hadn't met before, and I got to speak with Charlie's son a little bit about their journey with the Chevy 2 and what that car means to both of them. They drove that car from Missouri together all the way to Ohio and back, and they just got home here a little while ago. Charlie's son sent me a text, let me know that they made it home safe. And just a wonderful story. I really wish that I would have known that they were going to be there. I would have been better prepared to cover that. I just had no idea. And honestly, once I got there, you know, they had music playing, and there's just so many people and so many cars starting up and revving and doing burnouts on the road. So it was really difficult. I had to wait till the last second to try and interview Charlie. And I feel bad because I felt like it was a rush deal because I wasn't really prepared for it, but it's just the way life is sometimes, you know. But maybe sometime we'll touch base back on that story again. But I'm just really happy that we got to share that with everybody. And I'm really thankful that I got to speak with Charlie and his son, and they shared some testimony with me about their experiences and what it's been like going through what they went through and what that car has meant to Charlie. And it's been therapeutic, much in the same way that Denny's Camaro is therapeutic to him. You know, he lost his wife, and his daughter's been through cancer, and Denny's been through cancer, and just Denny's wife passed away due to complications with Alzheimer's, and Denny took care of her for 3 years by himself. And anybody who has lost someone to Alzheimer's, I don't have to tell you how excruciatingly difficult that is. So there are things that people go through in life that are very difficult. We are all going through something very difficult. And you just have to keep your faith and keep moving and find something to, I guess, live for. You know, you got to find something to live for. And in Charlie's case, his new mission in life was to rebuild his Chevy 2 as a tribute to his wife. And just an incredible story. But moving on, this week, I'm headed up to Bob's tomorrow. A little news there. Bob ended up in the hospital over the weekend. He's got so much going on up there, and he's working so hard trying to get ready for that wedding. He had some chest pains this weekend, and so he went to the hospital, spent the night in the hospital for observation, and did a stress test on him and checked out okay, but they're changing his medication. So I'm going up tomorrow to try and help Bob, and I want to try and get some work done around his new shop up there. So I'll be doing that. And Addie's Malibu's here. They just put their engine back in the car, and it's got a little leak from the front timing cover. The balancer seal is leaking, and we've had this problem with it before. So I'm going to try and put a sleeve on the harmonic balancer and increase the outside diameter of the hub on the balancer to put a little bit more pressure on the seal and see if we can't get that to stop. I'll let Kenny work on that this week while I'm up at Bob's. Hopefully we can get that taken care of. I got a little bit of work to do on my Malibu this week. And I'm waiting on parts for Dad's 35 Ford. So I'll probably be up here doing excavating the next day or two, maybe 3, until we get parts in. I ordered some vintage gauges for Dad's 35 Ford, some Autometer vintage gauges, so I can put a temperature gauge in each side of the block, or each side of the engine. So waiting on that stuff. So anyway, that's what's going on. I thank everybody for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. The channel just hit 178,000 a day or so ago. I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. Appreciate you guys very much for watching. And we'll see you in the next one.